Hey guys, it's Tony with WoodTramp Outdoors. I got something here you've been waiting on. Hang tight, you're gonna like this. Alright guys, welcome back. About 8 weeks ago we dropped a video on the prototype for the Xtreme Survival Shelter. I told you when I got them back in that I'd share them with you, and they just got in here. I've got two of them, one in olive drab and the other one is a blaze orange, and I'm going to talk to you about them today. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to our friends over in Indiana with Who's Your Bushcraft. Tony Richardson and his posse was introduced to us last fall at the River Valley Survival's fall gathering down in Forest City, Illinois, and our booth was directly across from Tony's, and you know, we got to meet him. Very cordial, super sharp guy, nice. I took in a couple of his classes. You know, he showed me he's got some corn in his crib there. He knows what he's doing out in the woods, and has a military background. He was with Airborne, I believe. All around great guy. But what they've done, what he has done, is put together a new podcast. It's called Who's Your Bushcraft Podcast, and I believe it dropped this week. And so get out there. Now, for those of you that are in Indiana and are looking for a group to hook up with, I recommend them, you know, based upon who I met and what I saw, you know. So they're a really good group of guys. So check them out. Get them on Facebook, either Who's Your Bushcraft or Tony Richardson, I think. Either one of them. So. All right, so let's get into this because I wanted to get this to you and answer the questions that have come in since you saw the prototype. A lot of questions, and I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. So, you know, one of the questions that kept popping up was, where did you get the idea for the design at? When did you conceive this? Well, first of all, just let me tell you that this is a design that I saw many, many years ago. Back in 1970, I remember that because I was an 11-year-old Boy Scout at Camp Wakanda and was a part of a demonstration on putting up a quick shelter. And that particular shelter was made out of a very heavy oilcloth, and it was somewhere around, you know, 6 foot by 6 foot. Had no tie-outs points on it at all. Had no grommets at all, and the way it was put together was they used stones, round stones at the corners, tied up with cordage so you could stake it out and you could fly it out. And it was made in the configuration that we have adapted. You got a roof, you've got the vertical panel, lean-to, and then a floor. And again, it was made out of oilcloth, and I got to help put that up. The ridge line was not a part of it. You know, it was just a cotton rope ridge line, as a matter of fact. We really weren't using that much paracord back in the day, not like we do today out in the bush. But that's where the premise of that came from. Now, this was resurrected to me about 8 years ago when I was a part of a discussion on various different types, styles of outdoor gear, you know, needs, the demands, and one of the subjects we covered was small shelters, and inevitably probably 95% of the people that were involved in that discussion brought up the single panel lean-to version that you see right here. Those are very, very popular, and those have been around for years, obviously, but you know, just like everything else that has been adapted, you know, there are manufacturers out there right now that make some pretty good ones, but they're really small, and there are some things that I just didn't care about. When we were talking about that, I just threw it out there. I said, hey, you know, I saw years ago shelter made out of oilcloth that had a porch on it, and it had a panel on it, lean-to panel, and a small little floor, you know, and it was poo-pooed, you know. That, you know, it'd take too long to deploy that. Yes, if it was in an oilcloth, but so I took that design and I began to draw that up the way that I thought it would work best. And what my idea was is to have a porch, a panel, and a floor with the ability of that porch to swing down and button up, giving you a totally enclosed A-frame. That's what the Xtreme is. You can fly it out like I just told you with the porch, panel, and the floor. You can button it down for the A-frame. You can also open it all the way up for a large single panel lean-to. There's so many different ways to deploy this thing. So that's where the premise came from. I'll show you this picture right here. That was the last drawing that I made on this and sent it to the manufacturer. I'll get to that too for you. But as you can see, it's approximately 100 by 82. It has 6 different independent D-ring attachment points, you know, to be able to stake it out, to fly it out. But what's really cool about this is the ridgeline system. And I'd like to be able to tell you that was my idea, but it really wasn't. One of the things that I've learned over the years, both in, you know, the outdoor business and independently in my own businesses that I've owned, and when I worked in manufacturing as an executive manager, is that if I don't know everything about a certain subject, I need to find the people who do. Surround yourself with experts, and you are much better off when you do. So when it came down to the shelter here, I knew that what I wanted as an end product, and I knew that I wanted it to have certain features in that product. I wanted it to be lightweight, durable. I wanted it to be very waterproof, and I wanted it to be, you know, just tank tough. And I wanted it to be deployable in several different configurations. And what I realized is that I was going to need somebody that was an expert at building shelters. There are a lot of companies that are available, especially if you go offshore. And I met an individual probably 3 years ago, something like that, that has a company that focuses on hammocks and tarps and all the fabrics. I mean, he is known as the giant, and I'm talking about Dutch Wear Gear, who is owned by Tom Ressler, and he's known as Dutch. And I've had several conversations with him, but what really sold me on going with Dutch was the fact that we had a tarp in here. I think we still have it. It was a Dyneema tarp that was sent to us. Now, Dyneema is a really interesting fabric. You know, it used to be considered a boutique fabric, as is, you know, like Xenon. That used to be considered a boutique fabric. Not anymore. Both of those are used regularly in the outdoor industry for tarps, for shelters, for just a variety of things. I'm not going to get all into this. I reached out to him because what I saw in that Dyneema tarp that he sent me, not only the fabric is cool, but it was the features and the way that he actually builds his tarps, the attention to detail that he gives. You know, it was crazy. And he has developed a system, the bonding in his tarps. He's developed that system. He's perfected it, as a matter of fact. And so that's why I reached out to him. I said, hey, Dutch, would you be interested in doing this? And then I've got some questions here that I'm just going to leave them up to you as the expert. You're the mad scientist. So if you've never ever been to his website, get out there, the Dutch Wear Gear, and check it out. But especially look at the hardware. The hardware is just crazy phenomenal. Yeah. So we came to an agreement, and I sent the drawing to Dutch. And there was a couple things that I really wasn't sure how to approach it. The ridgeline was the main one. I didn't know if we should, use the ridgeline and go all the way through the ridgeline and cover that ridgeline with the bonding at the seam there. Should we do it 1 or should we do it 2? And Dutch came up with what you're going to see here this afternoon in this video. Just super. When I deployed it the first time, it was like, wow. I asked him for something that would be fast, that could withstand heavy winds, and pounding rain. And he came up with this ridgeline system where it doesn't go all the way through the tarp. It's attached on each end. And they are 2 independent systems that work together. And they are attached with webbing, with a line lock tensioner, 1.33 millimeter reflective cordage, and a carabiner, a small carabiner that attaches it all. Now, why that is important is, when your hands start to get cold, and I think I'm going to put a chart up here. I've got a chart that shows you how your dexterity begins to fail. Everybody thinks, when it gets below 40, that's when it starts. No, at 60 degrees, you begin to lose dexterity in your hand. And with about every 10-degree drop in temperature, you lose about another 10 to 15% of the dexterity in your hand. So if you get around 20 degrees, if you've been out there, you know what it's like. So there was really, I would say, 2 prominent types of ridge lines that goes into a lot of the survival tarps that are out there right now, or survival shelters. One of them is a single line that goes through like a ridge line, your regular ridge line, except it is built inside of the shelter. And you flip it around there, and you put a trucker's hitch. Maybe you put a bowline on that end over there, and you put a trucker's hitch on this side over here. They work, as does the 2 cordage ridge lines that come out independently, 1, 2, and then 1, 2 on the other side. And they are designed to wrap around the tree, and you tie it up with some type of knot or even a simple shoestring bow, right? And that's how you deploy that with those 2 strings. But I have used those before. I've done both of them before. And I know that when it starts to get cold and you're out there trying to make especially a trucker's hitch with small cordage that is typical of a small survival shelter, you don't want a bunch of heavy cordage in there. It's tough to tie that trucker's hitch, and even with the bow, it's tough when your hands begin to get cold. So I wanted to get beyond that, and that was the challenge I gave to Dutch, and he came up with what you're going to see here right now. That is what I consider to be the ultimate ridgeline for this type of shelter. Is it perfect? Nothing's perfect in the outdoor world, especially when you're talking gear. But it's as close to perfect as I think that you're going to get, and I'm sure that somebody's going to tell me I'm full of hee-haw or whatever. That's okay. You have your opinion. I appreciate opinion. But, I've used a lot of these, and I'm telling you that this particular system, once you'll try it, you'll go, oh, wow, yeah, because it is super fast. If your hands are freezing, you can still clip that on that line and then just pull the tensioner up, do it on the other side. In less than a minute, you've got your ridge line up, and then you just begin to pull out your stake points for the lean-to and for the floor. And you can put a fire out in front of that with the porch out. You can fly that porch any way that you want it, any type of angle that you want. Get you a fire out away from your shelter and you will stay warm. Again, if you want to button it up because of the rain, you can lower it down. If you don't want to do it all the way, you don't have to. The rain won't get on you. But if you need to, you can actually button that down and make an A-frame to get on. So let me get a closer shot for you and show you some of these features that I was telling you about so you have a better understanding. All right, so up close and personal. Okay, these come in two different colors, and I don't think we're going to add. That's not written in stone, but right now we've got it in this dark olive drab color, or maybe it's even just a dark coyote brown. I don't know what you would call this, but blaze orange is the other one. And I'm going to use the blaze orange just for demonstration purposes. First of all, let's talk about the stuff sack. I don't want to change anything about this particular shelter, the way that was sent to us from our manufacturer, other than the stuff sack. I want the stuff sack to be smaller. It's a doable thing. I've already reached out to the manufacturer and they said absolutely we can do that. So it's going to be a smaller footprint. Fabric. The fabric that we went with is Xenon Sil 1.1, and it is 20D. It has a ripstop grid on the inside, which I'm going to do my best to show you that. And it has a very high hydrostatic resistance to it. It's waterproof, and it's tough. You know, you could put a knife through it, obviously, but just regular use, it's very, very rugged. So let's just get this out here. And one of the things that you'll notice here is that what I've chosen to do here, and you'll have to learn how to do this yourself, but the way that I suggest stowing this shelter is to make sure that one of the ridge lines are the very last thing to put in the stuff sack and the very first thing that you find when you open it, and that way you are quickly deploying it and it doesn't even have to touch the ground or leave you know from underneath your arm. But this is it right here. This is kind of like the secret sauce that we're going to start with, is this ridge line, because this totally impressed me, right? We're going to talk about the part that is, you know, the foundation of the ridge line that makes it strong and has the ability to withstand high winds, high rains, snows, sleet, whatever. And it's this right here. Now what Dutchware has done has taken a piece of independent Xenon fabric. It's the same ripstop, it's just a different color, I think. But as you can see, it's kind of a half moon, half circle shape right here. And this is not sewn in. Anything that is along his ridge lines, he does not sew them, he bonds them. And as I said earlier, he has perfected that process. Then he has taken two different sizes of web strap and has sewn it to that. That is sewn because it really doesn't matter. It's not going to leak through there, okay? And everywhere that is at, it goes all the way up under the hem. The hem folds over it. Attached to that webbing is this line lock tensioner. And then of course I told you that the cordage that we use is 1.33 millimeters, and it's high vis. If you hit it with a flashlight or a headlamp, it's going to shine in the darkness. We may add an option to use orange or yellow high vis, and at the end of that is this carabiner. And although it's small, it is very heavy duty, and it will hold everything into place. So let's talk about the fabric. I told you it had a ripstop grid. I'm hoping that you can see that. I can see it because of the way the light is killing me in here. Yeah, can you see that ripstop? All right, now I also want to show you how the D-rings are put on this. There are 6 D-rings along the perimeter. Okay, and all right. Now, what I suggest with every D-ring that you have, or any place that you might need to use a stake, or you might need to use a pole of some sort, whether it is a bushcrafted pole or a trekking pole. These D-rings, just like the line lock, are made out of high impact nylon. They're not plastic. They are very, very stout. Okay, again, let's look at the way that this is attached. Now, I don't know if you can see the 2 differences in the colors, where it's dark from here to here and then it's light. That's because the way that he does this, now he doesn't put an independent panel in here like he did with the Ridgeline because it's not necessary. But what he does do is he puts an extra piece of fabric under this area. It's almost like a flying V, if you can see that, inverted V. And then he sews the entire perimeter of that reinforcement on both sides. And then, of course, again, it is heavy duty webbing. Now, what I suggest you to do, everybody, hear me what I'm going to say. These are not real large D-rings. They're about a ½ inch. There are stakes out there that'll fit in here, but they aren't worth time. So what I suggest is you take and you make yourself a loop. I use fisherman's knots for mine, but you can use whatever you want. And I just stick them in there, and we pull them tight, and it is ready to go. You want to make sure if you're going to use a fisherman's knot, don't do it right at the end where the stress is going to be at on your D-ring. Oh, what did I do? I put it in the webbing. Wow, that was silly. Okay, so I'm going to leave that on there for now. But this is what I want to tell you. Put a loop on each. Put some cordage onto each of the D-rings anywhere, even on the Ridgeline, where you are able to get to that easily. And you're not fumbling when you're outside trying to hang this thing, and you have to make ridgelines, or excuse me, you have to make these loops once you're out in the field. Don't do that. Put them on there. Leave them on there. And you'll be happy for that. So yeah, there you go. I mean, that's it's very simple, you know. And the stuff sack. So let me show you again here. I'm going to put this in here, and the last thing you're going to see go in there is that ridgeline, because I want it to be the very first thing that I pull out when I'm ready to deploy this dude. Okay. There it is. The built-in stuff sack is not independent. It's a part of the shelter, and it stays on the shelter when you deploy it. That's pretty good. All right, so let's pull this back out. Let me wrap it up for you. All right. That's it, man. I mean, I'm really happy with this. As I said, I've been brainstorming on this thing forever. And I'd like to take credit for the original idea. It wasn't my idea. I just took that idea and I made improvements. I went from oilcloth to xenon. I went from no tie-outs to now you've got 6 independent D-rings and 2 ridge lines. But we've made a lot of improvements in that design. That's what you got here. And the reason we named it the Xtreme is because I've designed it for extreme conditions. Not only is it a survival shelter, it's an everyday shelter that you can put in your backpack, your rucksack, your go bag, your trunk, your glove compartment, your console. It'll fit in your pocket. even this guy right here, the way it is, if you compress it down, it'll fit in your pizacket. Look at that. That is small. And it is designed, again, not just for emergencies, but it's designed for everyday carry, because these are brilliant to take out into the woods, you know, for a weekend or for a scouting expedition where you're going out to look for, you know, game, or you're going to forage for the day, want to set you up a little camp. These are great for that. Now, where can you see these? All right, right now, as of this morning, these are on both of our websites, WoodTramp OutDoors.com and bushbutter.net. You can get them there. If you want to see this guy in person, this weekend is your opportunity. We are going to be down with Kevin Johnson and his buddies at the River Valley Survival Winter Camp in Forest City, Illinois. That starts on February the 6th, ends on February the 8th. And if you have never been a part of a winter survival camp or winter camp, it could be a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot of things. I'm sure they're going to be building super shelters down there. You know, it's great to do that. So, you know, for those of you that have wondered if, you know, you want to be involved with a survival school, Kevin has surrounded himself with some really good instructors. Matter of fact, let me show you the instructors that'll be there this weekend. I'll put that up there. They're all great instructors, very sharp and good at what they do. Kevin Johnson is an expert outdoorsman, survivalist, got credentials. And if you are in Illinois, for those of you that have written me over the years asking, you know, where's my survival school at? I don't have one, and I'm not going to. I teach independent classes for small, very small groups, 5 or less, periodically throughout the year. But as far as a bona fide survival school, I don't have one. And until recently, there wasn't one that suggests to you. But now Kevin Johnson has got one together, and it's called River Valley Survival. So get out to YouTube and check out some of his videos. Get on Facebook for River Valley Survival. There's a couple pages out there with them. And then he has his own independent page, you know, Kevin Johnson. I highly recommend them for those of you. I mean, because there's nothing like getting together with like-minded folks and sharing, you know, skills and learning from each other. We're always learning, always learning. So, you know, next week, no, 2 weeks, I'm going to be 67 years old. Whoa. I know, 67 years old. But yeah, but even at 67, and I've been in the woods since I was about 5 years old. My dad took me out my first time I was 5. So I've learned a few things, but I'm still learning, and that's what those classes are all about. So get out there and be a part of that. So we've covered just about everything. Now what we're going to do is we're going to shoot more video on this. If you can't make it down there to the winter camp, Mo and I will be shooting video on us deploying this in several different configurations. And if you decide, hey, I want to get one of those, get right out, because already we have people writing us for these. So you want to get on the website and hit that buy button. So until next time, you guys stay safe, especially right now. It is so cold. It's so cold. Take care.